Battleship Review.
The Alaska is a tier 9 American large cruiser, and what everyone that spent their hard-earned free XP to get the Kronstadt before they removed it would rather be playing right now. And would you look at that, the Mad Lads actually did it. They released Alaska, and it only took them 5 months. And more impressively, they didn't fuck up the ship before releasing it. Yes, I'm still butthurt about the Wichita. What of it? Because while Wichita is a smaller Baltimore, but without the benefits of being smaller, Alaska feels like a bigger Baltimore, or a smaller Missouri, with the benefits that could come from such a creation. Which is pretty historically accurate, as the USN designed the Alaska class by taking a heavy cruiser base and giving it battleship-like properties like big guns and better armor, hence the name of large cruiser, while other countries took a battleship design and started to strip it down until it was cruiser-like, and therefore having the more appropriate name of battlecruiser. But all of this is pretty irrelevant, as it's just debating over wording, and all ships of this type just fit in the spectrum between heavy cruiser and battleship, with some ships lying more heavily on either side, like the Deutschland class being more cruiser than battleship, and the Scharnhorst class being more battleship than cruiser. Apart from being frequently used for this debate, the Alaska itself wasn't historically very interesting otherwise. It arrived very late in the war, being commissioned the 17th of June of 1944. She participated in both the Battle of Iwo Jima and Okinawa, but mostly giving AA support for carriers and some shore bombardment, but never really saw any ship-on-ship combat action. Inside the game, obvious comparisons will be drawn to the other two battle cruisers at her tier, Kronstadt and the unreleased Azuma. And this review should help you out on finding out which one works best for you. From my point of view, they all bring something different to the table with their national flavors and the amount of armor they provide, putting them on different sides of the battle cruiser spectrum. Kronstadt provides the most health and armor of the three, and brings the Russian flat arcs and high shell velocity, while having a high garbage dispersion, which makes it excellent to fight battleships, but you will overpun most cruisers. Azuma, while still a work in progress, offers the least amount of armor of the three, and brings the great IJN dispersion and fire chance, at the cost of having the least interesting AP of the three. This means you deal best with DDs, considering the great shell velocity and dispersion, and you can also do great damage to battleships thanks to the high fire chance and raw HE pen damage. Alaska is the happy medium of the three, having good enough armor, health and dispersion, while offering the floaty slow heavy American piercing shells with improved angles. You struggle more than Kronstadt to pen battleships, but on the other hand you see much less overpens against cruisers. The floaty arcs are perfect to fire between islands and hide from returning enemy fire. But this doesn't mean you can't play aggressively and in open water, as you have some good armor on the sides to bounce shells with proper angling. Just remember to never bow tank against anything with a caliber bigger than 380mm, as it can overmatch your nose straight to your citadel. And talking about the citadel, it used to be impossible to citadel the Alaska, but now after the changes it can very much be citadeled to death. If you give any significant amount of broadside, it is not a ship for beginners. Other changes that happened before they released Alaska is the fire duration changes on battle cruisers, which makes the ship much more susceptible to HE spam, and the radar changes that were introduced with the release of the ship, which if you want to be really effective against DDs, the expert loader skill is highly recommended to switch faster to HE. Other recommended captain skills are concealment expert, fire prevention and basics of survivability. Your run-of-the-mill battleship captain will do fine, although you can use it to train either heavy cruiser captains or battleship ones. In closing, the ship is very good, but albeit it might not be for everyone. That's why you should check out the other battle cruisers for different takes on the battle cruiser gameplay. I think Wargaming did a fine job with the balancing, creating a ship with particular weaknesses and strengths that isn't broken, but still interesting to play. If you are in the look for an American premium heavy cruiser, you are much better off getting this instead of the Wichita. However, I know that I won't be playing it much after this review. What killed it for me were the slow shells. That made shooting at range a chore, and by virtue of that slow shell velocity you also have poor penetration the more distance the shell travels, making shooting AP at broadside battleships unreliable, problems that don't exist with the Kronstadt, or even better, the Stalingrad.
Todos muy fácil si